The South Pacific island of Vanuatu has for many years now had a number of different confusing citizenship by investment schemes, all with a donation. They're changing that now, and I'm going to share with you the latest update. I'm Andrew Henderson. This is Nomad Capitalist, where we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. And Vanuatu is one of the perhaps more overlooked citizenship by investment programs. It pales in comparison to the Caribbean programs such as St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua. However, it has been gaining a lot of momentum recently. And what I've been telling you for years, which was verified by when I was in Vanuatu several years ago, is that Vanuatu's programs just don't compare on the world stage when it comes to citizenship. In very, very few cases, I would recommend someone obtain Vanuatu citizenship by investment, unless perhaps it was like their 4th or their 5th passport and they were just building a real stack of passports. There are a few unique benefits you get, certainly living in Vanuatu. It's a very tax-friendly country. We'll see how that stands up over time, but certainly they do have a certain amount of independence, partially due to their geography. There are some benefits to the passport itself that don't come with the Caribbean passport, but really not enough to justify it. And so you've had these different competing programs, which the government said they were going to change over the course of the years. There's been speculation, which is hard to comment on, about the fact that citizenships aren't even full citizenship, that one of them is an honorary citizenship, the other one's not an honorary citizenship. I don't know that you would lose that citizenship, but are you entitled to a full passport? What would happen if certain government proclamations got out into the world? There's been a whole bunch of stuff around Vanuatu, which has led me to say that even though it is in theory, the fastest program to get citizenship, it's simply not worth it for most people. And on top of that, you had a donation that was comparable or even higher than what you would have in some of the Caribbean countries for a single, generally about $130,000. Well, now the country has come out with what they've been rumored to do for a while, and that's a real estate option. But what we find with this real estate option is a continued lack of transparency. Our friend Christian Immidale talks about 2 new press releases that came out and how this has kind of been staggered. This talk of this new real estate program has been staggered over the last 3 months. Basically, what the government did was they went out and found a company called Naika Holdings Limited, which apparently isn't registered in Vanuatu. People aren't quite sure where they're registered. They're not quite sure who's behind it, other than a single Google map pin showing an office in Port Vila, the capital of Vanuatu. People really aren't sure what's going on. They're not sure why this was theoretically kind of finished up in August and it's just now being released in November. So you've got what Vanuatu is known for in their citizenship program over the years. Just a lot of confusion, nothing that's very standardized. If you go on the website for St. Kitts and Nevis, if you go on the website for any of the Caribbean countries, you'll see a list of approved real estate projects. Now, one thing that those Caribbean countries are cracking down on, and their citizenship units are cracking down on, are projects that people start building and then never finish, often intentionally. And there are a number of schemes, let's call them, outside of the Western world. People are basically using unfinished real estate projects to get citizenship in the Caribbean in a dodgy way. So at the heart of what Vanuatu is doing is similar to what they are doing in the Caribbean, and that is this idea of approved real estate. Turkey is the only primary country that has a citizenship by investment program where you can go and buy real estate on the open market. You can buy a new build, you can buy a resale property, you can buy pretty much anything that you want. There are a few conditions, but it's not like there's a list of 50 projects that you have to buy from. And when you go to a country like Turkey for citizenship by investment, I think most people are dramatically overpaying because they're buying from the developers at the airport, they're buying from these shady websites that are online. It's very hard to get authentic information as a foreign investor just by going online. You've got to know people on the ground. You've got to know the good areas to be in, especially with what's happening in Turkey. But that said, you can buy property that theoretically will hold its value and that you can actually use. Unlike what you find in the Caribbean, which for the entry-level price points that get you citizenship are often timeshares, they're often shares in hotels, they have really bad yields. The commissions many of those people pay are just through the roof. You'd be shocked if you hear. So I'm almost never telling someone to invest in real estate. It's very, very rare that I'm telling someone, hey, do the real estate deal. I'm generally trying to talk them out of it. So now Vanuatu is coming out with a similar program of approved real estate. And what they're suggesting is there are 4 projects that you're going to be able to invest in to receive citizenship. The numbers themselves are confusing. So $200,000 in a real estate investment under the real estate option. This press release that those came out said, okay, that's going to entitle you to citizenship. It's unclear whether there will be additional fees on top of that. You see in the Caribbean, you buy a piece of real estate, you think, hey, I'm saving the donation. Well, you are, but you're still paying some kind of additional government fee for the privilege of real estate, possibly government fees on the real estate itself. So, a decent chunk of the donation that you would otherwise pay is going into some of the extra fees that come along with the real estate option. We don't know if Vanuatu is going to have that. They've said $200,000. Also in the press release, they've said, oh, if you acquire a 50% interest as tenant in common, you can get it in for as little as $100,000, which seems very odd because why would you donate $130,000 to this kind of hard to understand scheme of how much goes to the Asian, how much goes to the government? It's really much different than most of the other citizenship by investment programs. But if you can invest $100,000, I mean, even if it just was a timeshare, if you're going to own it with 50% with some other guy you don't even know, right, who just wants citizenship, you can do it for $100,000. Hey, okay, at least you have something. It's going to be very hard to liquidate probably, but at least you have something. So what's already confusing about what Vanuatu is coming out and saying is $200,000 in real estate, but maybe $100,000 if you go in with someone else, but we're not exactly sure who that is. We haven't specified what the extra fees are. And then there are 4 different projects. One of them is simply called what's called Milai on the island of Espiritu Santo. I believe that's the larger island, but not the main island. There's a couple projects on the main island, and then there's actually 3 projects on the main island, and then one on this larger island. One of these projects is theoretically like an agricultural kind of investment project. Again, nothing really has a website. This real estate project barely has a website. Everything is kind of very unclear. And so, I really wish Vanuatu would come up with, and when I was there, I said, listen, I will be happy to help you, and there's plenty of other people who can help them as well. Put together a program that people want to take part in. But this is just confusing. And so the donation, again, you've got 2 different programs. There's always kind of confusion around that. Now you've got a real estate option, which, listen, I'm all for entrepreneurship. I'm all for getting it out there and refining it. But Vanuatu has had a dramatic increase in the number of people getting its citizenship. And so if those people are even in part going to migrate over to this real estate option, you think they'd want to have some clarity as to what the fees are going to be, what the timeline is going to be, what the criteria are, what the hold period is for these investments. That is all unspecified right now. And so I think Vanuatu has some interesting potential. It's got an interesting passport, which is pretty weak in the Americas, but does give you access to Russia, does give you access to Europe, gives you a lot of the standard kind of citizenship by investment countries in Asia, has an interesting location, has an interesting relationship with some of the global powers, and is able to kind of work them against each other, has an interesting transit visa policy through Australia and New Zealand, if you can ever transit through Australia and New Zealand. So, there's some interesting things to it. I've said for a long time it's not ready for prime time, and now the country's coming out with this real estate program. I'm baffled. I think it's interesting. I think that it shows the maturation of their program, but it's not really being done properly in my opinion. So it's really hard for me to recommend that someone sees, oh, hey, Vanuatu's been on my radar. People claim you can get citizenship in a month or 2. I think that's probably a little bit aggressive because you're going to be doing your document collecting on the front end. But certainly it is a bit more of a laid-back program than some of those in the Caribbean. But quite frankly, if I'm going to look at this, I'm going to probably get citizenship in Turkey, given the fact that Vanuatu has had reputational issues with its banking sector, being on various blacklists over the years. The passport isn't as strong in a lot of places in the world as the Caribbean passport would be. I'd rather, go and get a Turkish passport, which you could argue, okay, well, maybe there's some issues there too. Tack on some kind of residence in Europe, and I think you'd probably get a lot more value buying on the open market than buying what you would get in Vanuatu. So if the goal is, hey, let me get away from these approved real estate deals and donations in the Caribbean, I don't think you're going to find it here. So more kind of confusion from Vanuatu's citizenship, not sure what's involved, not sure what the projects are, not sure what the costs are. Continue to be a lot of details that need to be ironed out. Don't stop now. We've got well over 1,000 more videos here on YouTube for you to watch and learn how to go where you're treated best. And if you want to work with Nomad Capitalists personally, go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, learn about our unique, tried and true process, garnered over years of experience, and learn how you can become our client.